Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, what I want to talk about, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. If you've been following me, you know that I have guests and friends on from time to time. And one of the good friends of the show, great friend of the show, is my girl, Britt. And Britt was on. She's been on a couple of episodes, and I finally got a chance to be on her podcast here recently. But she recently did an episode. Actually, it's a series that she has going on with the homie Baylor, the great BTG for President is his podcast. Britt's podcast is called I Can Talk About This All Day. And they've got this series going where they just have a topic or topics, and it's all about nostalgia. And they just talk about, how it was growing up. Now, Britt and Baylor are a little bit younger than me, so they're not as seasoned as your boy. But nonetheless, great conversation. And it really and truly inspired me to, bring this episode to the forefront because what better than talking about the old days? The great thing about the old days is that they were the old days. So I'll start, and then I'll go in no particular order, but I'll kind of bounce around as far as like eras. And I'll just keep it simple, like what happened when you were like elementary school and high school and middle school and all of that good stuff. First thing, elementary school. One of the things that they talked about crushes. I had two big crushes in elementary school. And what's funny is that they were two friends. Let's see. My first crush. Yeah, I would say she's probably my first crush. My first crush was a girl named Carolyn Cobb. Carolyn Cobb was, first of all, she was very, very smart. I was in all the smart classes and she was right there with me. And because her last name started with a C and mine started with a D, we always kind of sat near each other, but she was super, super cool. And I just remember like in third and fourth grade, man, I had the biggest crush on Carolyn Cobb. And I never told her, right? But like she was super smart. She was very pretty, had this really nice chocolate brown skin. And surprisingly, unlike a lot of girls at my school, like her hair was always done. Like she kept her hair was always very nice. I think her mom really hooked her up as far as school was concerned. She never came to school looking weird or bugged out. And we were really good friends. We were really good friends. We ended up going to different high schools. I went to Wilson High School and she went to South Florence High School. I never told her. I never told her that. I think she probably knew, but I mean, you little kids, or whatever. But I thought the world of her. I thought she was super dope, man. And Carolyn Cobb was a big crush for me. Unfortunately, she passed away maybe about 2 years ago. I'm not even sure what happened. I know that we were friends on Facebook, but really, really nice lady. And like I said, somebody who I thought was really dope, even when we were little. My other crush was her friend. Her name was Katina Davis. And me and Katina Davis, we actually dated in like the third grade for like 2 days. Yeah, I mean, that's typical, third grade relationship. But yeah, it only lasted 2 days. And the reason why she broke up with me is because she said I was telling too many people. Now, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to tell anybody, but I was like, hey, I got a girlfriend. Who's your girlfriend? Katina Davis. Man, I told everybody. I didn't even care. But Katina and I, we remain really good friends. And we ended up going to middle school together and high school together. And when we were in middle school, we used to talk on the phone all the time. I mean, like she was like my road dog. real pretty young lady. And we always just had a lot of conversations, and we got to be really cool and really tight in high school. And what used to always bug me out was like, I would call her on the phone, and she had like, I think she had two sets of twin brothers and sisters that were younger than her. So like her house always sounded like romper room anytime you called her. I mean, I called her in middle school. I didn't call her in elementary school. But those are two crushes that I had in elementary school. I don't know if I was anybody. I'm pretty sure I probably was a crush of somebody's back at McLaurin Elementary School in Florence, South Carolina. But if I was somebody's crush, they never said nothing. You know what I used to do also in elementary school? I used to take mad trips to the pencil sharpener. Now, here's the thing, kids. When you were our age, and this is the 80s, right? So you had to keep your pencils sharpened because you just never know, you got to take a test or something like that. So I didn't have a personal pencil sharpener. So every classroom, no matter where the class was in our elementary school, had a pencil sharpener. And normally it's probably closer to the front of the class. It's never in the back of the class. So if the lead broke on your pencil, a kid like me who thought he was really, really cool would always find a reason to get up in class and go sharpen his pencil. So I had mad trips to the pencil sharpener. And I just did that just so people could see how fresh I was. I mean, I literally was, as we used to say back in the day, styling and profiling. But yeah, those are a couple of memories from elementary school that just really stand out amongst the thousands of other elementary schools I've had. Memories I've had. What else? Now when I got to middle school, we used to play outside a lot, and what's interesting is middle school for me was 7th and 8th grade, right? And we played a game that people called different things just depending on where you lived. Some people we called it throw them up. So you play throw them up. The way that you play throw them up is you might have 15 guys, and you take the ball and it's one football, and you throw the ball up in the air, and whoever catches it has to try to. If it's 1 versus 15, you got to try to beat everybody to the end zone to score. Looking back on it now, it's probably virtually impossible to score. But I mean, hey, if you scored a couple of touchdowns like that, you were good. That's one of the places where I hone my skills, my football skills. And like I said, the game we called it throw them up, but some people called it kill the man with the ball. Some people call get killed. I've heard several different versions of that childhood game, but it's basically like one on whatever. So how many ever people, it was literally just a game of one man football. That was it. One man football. So we would play football in middle school. I went to Williams Middle School in Florence, South Carolina. And, one of the interesting things about playing football or playing during recess, because we still called lunchtime, we called it recess. I don't know why. We probably should have just been calling it lunch, but we called it recess. And for me, middle school was 7th and 8th grade. I know some of you probably went to middle school from 6th through 8th grade, but for us it was 7th through 8th. Now, what was interesting about having activities outside, especially middle school, Baylor, you can imagine this. If you're outside and you're playing football or you're running around and you're a teenage boy, you're probably not going to smell that good when it's time to come inside. Personally, I kept a small thing of deodorant. I made sure that, I wasn't coming to class funky. And here's the thing. And my mom told me this when I was little. She said, if you're funky, you should be the first person to know. So I never wanted to go to anybody's class funky. I mean, now, technically, if you played football at recess, you probably were a little ripe You're probably a little ripe, but I didn't want to come to class musky. And man, listen, we had some dudes. If you were stink before we started playing football, you were clearly going to be stink after playing. So yeah, it was. I took preventive measures. I didn't want to come to class funky, but it was interesting. Now, Britt, I will tell you this, Britt. This shows you how much older I am than you and Baylor. We had kids that would come to school with cardboard boxes. And I don't mean like, a full box, but they would break the box down and the box would be flat, right? In case you're wondering, that was for breakdancing. Because nothing made lunchtime or recess even better if somebody had a boom box or some type of music and you could play it on a tape. I even remember kids having portable tape players. Play it on your tape player, put a little speaker next to it, and every now and then they let us bring a boom box to school. There'd be one or two kids with boom boxes, and you lay that cardboard box down, and you get busy. Spinning on your head, all kinds of stuff. So that was a sign of the times. It was something we loved to do. I never could break dance. I was good at popping and locking, but as you see me popping and locking on YouTube, thank you for watching. But no, I wasn't much of a break dancer. Then I got to high school. High school, some of the nostalgia things about high school, man. One in particular, the ever-present, super, super dope starter jackets. And I'm talking about the parka with the hoodie. Listen, if there's anybody out here right now that's listening to this podcast, if you know of anybody that can do this for me, let me know. Point me in the direction of where I can purchase one of those starter jackets. I never got a starter jacket when I was in middle school. It was the one thing that I wanted that I never got. I had Jordans, I had Adidas, I've gotten every piece of clothing that I've ever wanted in my life. Starter jackets have evaded me. And the one starter jacket that I really wanted was that the Syracuse joint, Syracuse University. It was blue with the orange letters. Oh my God, man, that thing was so cold. And starter jackets back then, man, were running for like $100. And then my mom was like, no, you're not getting no starter jacket. And unfortunately, there were some kids who got hurt. And some kids, unfortunately, lost their lives over the starter jackets. But for me, man, that was everything, man. I wanted me a starter jacket so bad in high school, and I never got one. And I've always been somewhat envious of those who got starter jackets. Right now, you can't even find a starter jacket if you wanted to. But in 1990, if you had one, man, you was doing something. You were saying something. It was a statement. It was a fashion statement. Never got a starter jacket. And it's funny because I couldn't afford it back then. We just couldn't afford a starter jacket back then. Now I can afford 10 starter jackets and I can't find them. I don't even think they make them anymore. But if any of you are listening and you know where to find some, that's got to be specific. Now, I don't want to get like Milwaukee Brewers starter jacket. I would like a nice Atlanta Hawks or Syracuse University starter jacket. I'm sure there's probably somebody that could sell some on eBay, but here's the thing. If you're selling it on eBay, it's probably too big for me, right? I can't take a XXX. I'm not a big guy. But anyway, yeah, starter jackets, man, were everything. I mentioned Jordans. What was interesting about my time in high school was like Jordans were the jam. Like if you had Jordans, you were doing something. And in the time that I was in high school, the 3s came out, the 4s came out, the 5s came out, and the 6s. Listen, so the 3s came out in 88, 4s came out in 89, 5s in 90, and the 6s in 91. When the 3s and the 4s came out those 2 years, oh my God. And the thing about it was that, once again, I wanted those Jordans. I really, really wanted those Jordans. everybody and their mama wanted the threes. The threes were so cold. And if you had some Air Jordan 3s, you were doing something. It was a status symbol, but it also meant that you probably weren't broke. But couldn't afford it. Just couldn't afford it. And it's like now I have purchased a few. I've purchased a few Jordans in my closet, and I don't even I only have 2 feet, right? But I think it's for the nostalgia piece of it. It's the fact that I couldn't afford it back then in '88. So yeah, now I'm gonna buy 3s. I have more 4s than I have anything else. But yeah, that takes me back, man. Air Jordans take me back, especially that particular era of Air Jordans. Great times, great times. What else? What else? Oh, listen, and I'm not gonna say his name. Had a homie who his dad had a stash of sexually explicit videos, aka pornos. But here's the thing, they were on VHS tape. And so what was interesting about it being on VHS tape was that like you could not, like if you he would basically sneak and take them, and then he would bring them over to the crib, and then we watched. As keep in mind that we're young, we're like 9th, 10th grade. We watch it and we laugh and make comments and all kind of stuff like that. But the thing about watching it on a VHS tape is that you have to make sure that once you watch it, you got to rewind it and put it back on that same spot wherever you picked it up from. Because here's the thing. If you rewind it back to the beginning, my homeboy's dad's going to know somebody messed with that tape because he didn't have it at the beginning of the tape. So if it's somewhere in the middle, you got to make sure that, that you're not just putting it someplace. It has to be where it's supposed to be. And if it's not, then that could be problematic. It could definitely be problematic. Man, listen, he had a stash. He had a stash. I'm not going to say his name. But he definitely had a stash, and we, as young boys, we took advantage of the opportunities to, peep and see what was going on. So yeah, that was a thing in high school. What else? Speaking of clothes, man, do you remember matching clothes? Like a guy wearing what his girlfriend's wearing, his girlfriend's wearing what his guy's wearing. I remember the airbrush era. I don't even know if this was something that happened outside of my hometown of Florence, South Carolina. But back in the day, if you had a girlfriend, you might get a white t-shirt and you go to the store and you have them airbrush her name onto the shirt. And she would do the same. And then you would wear the matching t-shirts in public together. Don't ask me why. Listen, I never did it. I'm not throwing any shade to any of you who did, because a lot of you listening did this. But I just didn't understand. I didn't understand the need to, because here's the thing. If we're together, we're together. You see us together. I don't need to have Stephanie across my chest. And no, I didn't date a Stephanie. Shout out to Stephanie. But I don't need to have Stephanie across my chest. She didn't have to have Kyle on her back. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. But I mean, that was the airbrush era, man. It was dope in the 90s. What else? Yeah. Speaking of clothing, the Letterman jacket. There were guys who, and I guess it's kind of some type of tradition, there were guys who would get their Letterman jacket and give it to their girlfriends and let their girlfriends wear their Letterman jackets. I don't know why you would do that. And here's the thing, I'm not totally against it, but the flip side of it is that they didn't play no sports. So, I mean, like, if I got a football Letterman jacket, why would I let some girl wear my jacket? She didn't play football. I put in that blood, those sweat, those tears for that Letterman jacket. So no, I'm not letting you wear my jacket. But I mean, like, I knew girls that would sport it like they scored 8 touchdowns. I don't blame the girls. I blame the guys. But I did. Oh man, I did do something stupid once. I was dating this young lady. We were in high school, and I had this necklace. Now I'll be full disclosure. I don't wear a lot of jewelry. Like, I have obviously my wedding ring and watch or whatever, but I don't, like, growing up, I never, like, when I saw Tupac with a fat herringbone, I thought it looked cool, but like, jewelry always looks good on other people, and I never thought jewelry was like fly. So even if I had a whole bunch of money, you never catch me with the whole bunch of jewelry around my neck, because it's just uncomfortable to me, right? But at this particular time, I had this little Figueroa chain, and the chain was nice. It wasn't a long chain, but it was long enough. And this young lady I was dating, right? I can't remember if I asked her. I don't think I asked her. Maybe she suggested it. I can't remember. It's been a long time. And I'm old. But she let me wear her class ring. And I took the class ring and I put the ring around my neck. And again, this is a gold chain, and this is a class ring that is hers. And I don't know. I would guess the ring probably cost about $200, which, that wasn't cheap back in 1991, right? And so I had the ring around my necklace. And, just like a Letterman's jacket, I wore it with pride. I was like, yo, this is dope. This is representative of us. And one day, I don't know what happened. I truly do not remember one day this happened. I was chilling, and I went to touch my necklace, and I felt the necklace, but I didn't feel the ring. The ring was gone. I don't know what happened. You would think that you would have felt it fall or heard it fall on the floor or on the ground. And I played football, but of course I never wore my jewelry on the field. Nobody does that, right? Who does that? But yeah, I lost my then girlfriend's class ring. I was shocked. And I'm not one who loses a lot of things. So I was like distraught. I was like, oh my God, she's going to kill me. But not like she's going to kill me. I just like, I hated the fact that I lost something. I hate losing things because I don't lose a lot of things. Like, this one really, really, really bothered me. And plus, I knew she was going to have to tell her parents that she gave or let her boyfriend wear this ring, and this clown lost it. And so I talked to her, and surprisingly, she took it a whole lot better than I thought she would. Like, I thought she was going to cuss me out. But yeah, I mean, I did that. Baylor, I don't know if you know about class rings and sporting your girls' class rings, but that's how we got down in 91. Yeah, that was the thing. I lost the class, and I apologized, and she understood. And much to my surprise, her parents got her another ring. But I'm super, super happy that she didn't trip about it, because I might have tripped. But and full disclosure, I never got a class ring, so I didn't have a ring to give to anybody for them to lose. So, what else? Oh, y'all were talking. Baylor and Britt were talking about, the nostalgia time. There was no mention of prom. Like, man, listen, prom. I've got some prom stories for you. I'm not gonna get into all of them. Prom. Here's the thing. It's funny because our youngest son Brandon just went to prom. And I was telling him, like, prom don't ever go the way that you think it's going to go. And I flashed back to the episode of The Cosby Show where Theo and his friends had planned to, rent a helicopter, and, they were trying to be real fly and impress their friends and stuff at school and everything. And the night just didn't go the way that they wanted it to go. And that normally happens at prom, at least for the proms that I went to and the people around me. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shaped the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. If you want a podcast where culture, conversation, and life collide, where you get insightful commentary, engaging discussions, and a fresh perspective on everything, then you need to listen to the 12 Kyle podcast. Hosted by the one and only, yours truly, 12 Kyle, a voice that you know and trust. This podcast will bring you thought-provoking moments, compelling stories, and a whole lot of fun. Whether you're a first-time listener or just tuning in, each episode promises to be something new and exciting. So sit back, relax, join 12 Kyle, myself, and my guests as we break down the world around us and give you stories that you've never heard before. From nostalgic throwbacks to everything in between, the 12 Kyle podcast is a front row seat to this conversation. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, where the vibe is always real and the discussion is always worth your time. I do remember that this is a funny story. So, and I can use names. We cool. So, my boy Rudy. I think you guys have heard me talk about Rudy. Me and Rudy go back to like 7th grade. Still friends to this day. One of my best friends. Rudy was dating a girl, and Rudy and the girl broke up. I'm not gonna use the name, but if you went to school with us, you know her name. Let's just say her name was Tony, right? So Rudy was dating Tony. Rudy and Tony break up. And they've been dating for, I don't know, maybe about a year or so. And so Tony asked me, now keep in mind, I am at this point a junior in high school. Tony asked me, she's a sophomore. She asked me to go to prom, not the other way around. Like, I didn't ask her. And she was like, hey, we should go to prom together. And I was like, well, what is Rudy gonna say? I mean, because this is my boy. This ain't somebody that I'm just cool with. This ain't somebody I'm just fly with. This is like one of my best friends. We in the crew together. And I was like, I need to check with him first. I was like, I can't. I mean, because the minute me and you show up at the prom, everybody gonna look like everybody gonna look like I'm a dirty Mac. And I don't do any dirty Macking, right? And this is 1990. Who was trying to dirty Mac in 1990? Definitely not me. Not 12K. So she was like, yeah, I understand. And to this day, I still don't know how or why Tony approached me about going to prom. And so I was like, all right. I said, well, I asked Rudy. So I went to this crib and I was like, yo, and I was like, Tony wants to go to prom. I was like, you cool with that? And he was like, with you? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah. He was, he was like, y'all friends, y'all can go. I was like, but you ain't worried about how that's gonna look. He's like, nah, he's like, it ain't like you trying to take her home. I was like, nah. I said, she cool. And we were always cool. But it just, looking back on it now, it just looked really, really weird. And it's funny because as I was telling my son Brandon this story, he's like, Dad, you was Dirty Mac? No, I'm not a Dirty Mac. But it looked as if I was a Dirty Mac because I showed up at the prom with my boys' ex-girlfriend. And again, it was totally innocent. It didn't look like that. And looking back on it now, I probably shouldn't have gone, but she asked. So I was like, okay, cool, we can go. And we went and we had a good time. But looking back on it now, it did look kind of wild. And it's funny because I called him the other day to remind him of that. He's like, yeah. I was like, man, why did I go to, I was like, and let me back up. Here's the funny part. So we get to prom. I think we take pictures. And at some point, Rudy and Tony go off to the side and they're talking or whatever like that. And they actually got back together. So the night ends with him getting his girlfriend back, who was my prom date. Strange, right? And then they would subsequently break up in a couple of days. But yeah, I mean, like prom, it never goes the way that you want it to go. There's a couple other prom stories I could tell, but I ain't gonna tell them. I will say this much. I do, and I was telling Brandon this. There was a girl my senior year that I really wanted to go to prom with. She was a senior too. And I didn't ask her. And I really liked her, but I didn't ask her. And part of the reason why I didn't ask her was because like she was like real religious. And I just thought like, you know, if I take her to prom, she ain't gonna be to hang out. She's got to be home at like 9:30. So I didn't ask. And I think I messed it up because like, I think we would have had a good time. I mean, nothing, you know, I don't think it would have, I wasn't even trying to, you know, take it there, you know, wherever there is. But, you know, I think I know she liked me too, but I think that was just a missed opportunity for two people to kind of kick in and get to know each other a little bit better. But I ended up going with a young lady. We had a good time. But it just, you know, prom just, you think it's going one way, it's going the other way. And then of course, you know, you get to high school, then you got college. Britt and Baylor, you know, went on a deep dive on college. You guys have heard me talk about my times and experiences at the great South Carolina State University, where I attended and graduated. There were a lot of nostalgia things that happened in South Carolina State University. I've talked about some ad nauseum. I'll give you one here. Technology wasn't what it is now, right? So I play football, right? And when we would have road trips, you wanted to make sure that you had enough batteries for your trip. So I would make sure I would go to the store. I would because I had, you had a portable Walkman. So you either had a tape Walkman or you had a CD. I had a CD. And so you wanted to make sure that you had enough batteries to last you through the trip. So, and I had these huge fat headphones that were kind of like Beats headphones back in the day, before its time, but they covered my ears. So when football wise, we played against schools like Howard or Florida A&M, and we'd have to make these road trips. Like I remember we had to go to DC to play Howard, and then like a couple of weeks later, we had to go to Dover, Delaware to play against Delaware State. And I distinctly remember, going to the store to get some batteries for the trip. And I always bought like Duracell batteries because I thought Duracell batteries, would last a long time or whatever. But I had a teammate, my man Early. Shout out to Early. Early decided he wanted to be cheap, so he didn't want to buy Duracell or Everlast batteries. He wanted to buy what we call cat batteries. Cat batteries were the cheap batteries that just had like this wild looking cat on the battery. Cat batteries would probably last about as long as you would imagine a cat battery would last. So I'll never forget we was going to Howard. So we were leaving Orangeburg, South Carolina to go to DC. We're in a bus. We ain't flying. It's a, I don't know, 8.5 hour drive on a bus. And there's probably from Orangeburg, South Carolina to the North Carolina, South Carolina state line. It's probably about, maybe about 2 hours. I remember we didn't even get to the state line. And Early was like, hey man, anybody got any batteries? He was asking for batteries because his Walkman had died because we were only on the bus for 2 hours and his batteries were done. 2 hours, that was it. You know, he probably listened to a couple of CDs or a couple of tapes and that was it. And so like he had to ride to DC with no batteries. I mean, because you didn't want to mess with the cat batteries. What else happened in college? Nostalgic. You know what's always dope in college? Getting your own apartment, living on your own. That is key, and it's very big, and it's a very big experience for most people that it happens to. Because here's the thing: if you're like me, you know, like I had my own room in my house in our house in Florence, but you know, coming to college was something totally different. And so I had a roommate. So I had a roommate on campus. I lived on campus. And that's the way it was until I moved off campus. And, you know, when I moved off campus, then you got a chance to, experience what it was like to have your own little space. The problem was that I lived in this boarding house. Like it was for the summer. That was the first time that I was off campus. It was a boarding house on Lowman Street. Shout out to Lowman Street, the Blue House on Lowman Street. It's no longer there anymore. It caught a fire a couple of years ago. But what was wild was that room. I was in a boarding house and I shared the boarding house with my cousin Eric and like 7 other guys. So it was like 9 of us and we all had our own rooms. And I'll be honest with y'all, and you can't see this unless you're looking on YouTube. I'm stretching my arms out and I don't have, I've got a nice wingspan. It ain't 7'9" wingspan, but I got a nice wingspan. But as far out as my arms are stretched, it's probably about as wide as the room was. And the shower that we all, one of the showers that we all shared, it was a stand-up shower and you literally could only fit one person in that shower. And I mean, like, if you were big, you couldn't fit in there. Like I remember one time, I don't know why we did this, but my girlfriend at the time, not wife, Sharice, we took a shower together and like we literally were like shoulder to shoulder. Like it was ridiculous. It's that small. But having your own apartment, man, is just like you think it's going to be one thing, and don't get me wrong, it was cool. I enjoyed it. But, you know, I'm sharing it with these other guys and, you know, we'd have, you know, house meetings and talk about stuff and guys would, you know, trash would be flowing over the trash can and nobody would pick up the trash, or, you know, dudes would, you know, cook the night before and leave grease and stuff on the stove. Just real messy. And I mean, like, so you just got to be careful when you get your own apartment. So it wasn't, and even that one wasn't really my apartment per se. I just had a room in that house. And then when I subsequently finally moved off campus, I moved in with Sharice. So it's been a while since but now I take that back. Because when I moved to Atlanta, me and Jay Fresh lived together for a year. And then after me and Jay Fresh lived together for a year, I did have an apartment by myself. Until Sharice graduated from college. But yeah, you know, living with other people is that's another thing you learn too at college that they don't talk about. Learning to live with people. You never know somebody until you live with them, male or female. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if you are if you're into them, you know, romantically or not. I mentioned me and Jay Fresh had an apartment, you know, after college, here in Atlanta, and you know, I say this all the time, like I'm probably the only person from the crew that could live with Jay Fresh. And it's not that he's messy or anything. It's just, he's just different. You know what I mean? Like he He didn't eat pork. He didn't eat meat at the time. Pause. Um, but I mean, like he does stuff a little different than the rest of our crew, and so it you had to you just know people better when you live with them. Another thing that college nostalgia uh, memories always come back to the Sega Genesis and John Madden football. Listen, I think I started playing John Madden in 1992. And the thing I can tell you about Madden was that even back then, it was addictive. We would have Madden tournaments during the week. I remember I had the Sega Genesis in my room and on campus, and I had dudes. Dudes would come to my room and they would be like, "Yo, KD, let's get a game. Let's get a game." No, man, I'm bringing the game out on the weekend because the thing was, I couldn't focus if y'all were in my room. I couldn't focus on my studies and everything like that if y'all in here playing Madden. And truth be told, when you're playing Madden, dudes don't ever want to leave. Like, they get really competitive, and the next thing you know, you look up and you're trying to go to sleep, and you got this, you got your 300-pound fullback on your team, sitting at the edge of your bed playing Madden. Nah, man. Nah, we're not doing that. And I remember distinctly, and I talked about this on a previous episode. One of my old roommates, I'm not gonna say his name, he was the first person that I've ever seen that would put Madden on simulation and watch the game and wouldn't play it. That to me defeated the purpose. Because if Madden's on, I want to play it. I don't want to sit there and watch it. What else? Oh, Baylor, y'all didn't talk about getting hookups. I got the ultimate hookup on CDs. One of my former teammates, I'm not going to say his name, because I don't know if the statute of limitations is up. But one of my former teammates, after he finished playing football, he was working at the record store. And with him working at the record store, we had this little hookup thing to where he would, like, you tell him, okay, hey, I'm coming through later to get some CDs. And so I might pick out 6 CDs, but I'm only going to pay for one. So he's going to ring up one. I'll slide him a couple of dollars, and then he'll put the rest in the bag. He'll take like the little security codes off of it. Man, listen, I can't tell you how many CDs I got like that. And that's just getting a hookup. Now, some may call it stealing. I don't call it stealing. I call it getting a hookup. Same with food. Like one of my boy Mo, he used to work at this restaurant called the Shrimper. And I would just call him and I'd be like, "Hey Mo, I'm gonna come by at 9:30," and he would cook up some food, put it in a box, and I would come to the the drive-through, and I'd give him like some type of signal. I'd be like, "Wu-Tang Clan," like, and he would know, like, okay, I'm outside, and then he, give me my food or whatever, and I would never pay for it. So I mean, like, you just, when you're in college, you just got to find a way to get hookups. What else? Oh, college, you got to smell good. Shout out to Cool Water Cologne. I had, and I ain't really a big cologne wearer, but Cool Water, man, listen, Cool Water always turn heads. A lot of times, if you go to parties, the beverage of choice was Old English 800. Now, I didn't drink when I was in college. Didn't drink at all. So I saw a lot of people drinking. I saw a lot of dudes drinking Old English 800, and I saw a lot of young ladies drinking Boone's Farm. I don't think I've ever had Boone's Farm before. And I mean, I drink now, but it's sparingly. But I don't think I've ever had Boone's Farm. And I know for a fact I've never had Old English 800. I mean, because why? I enjoy having my liver. What else? Just road trips. Road trips were always dope in college. Like, I think going to college where I did at South Carolina State University in Orangeburg, South Carolina, we would, especially if we had access to a car, and I did, by the time I was a junior, I had my own car. You love making road trips. I mean, I made road trips. Obviously, I talked about the Freaknik. With us being in Orangeburg, Orangeburg is 30 miles from Columbia, which is the capital of South Carolina. And then you're probably another hour away from Charleston, which is south of Orangeburg. So you didn't have to go far to, get into some things if you wanted to get out of Orangeburg. My hometown of Florence is only an hour and a half from Orangeburg. So, road trips are always cool. I remember I went to DC. I went to DC and to this day, I still want to slap Rod for this. My teammate Rod, Rod Walker. So I'm going upstairs. Me and the homies, we about to go to DC for the weekend. My boy Russ is from DC. We're going to DC for the weekend. And DC is, like I said earlier, like an 8-hour drive. But you're young, you don't care. As long as you got your music, you're fine. So I had my portable CD player sitting in my car. It was on the passenger side, and I went up. I had my car parked in front of the dorm. I had to go upstairs and get something, and I left my doors unlocked. And I went upstairs, and I just went upstairs real quick to come back downstairs. And so we're getting ready to leave, and I come back downstairs, and I think we'd actually gotten on the road. We got on the road. Oh no, we were about to get on the road, and I realized my CD player was missing. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I looked under the seats. I looked, in the glove compartment. I'm like, well, did I take it back upstairs? And I'm like, no, I know I didn't take it back upstairs. And then it dawned on me. I realized that I had left my doors unlocked. And I was like, damn, somebody got me for my CD player. So I had to ride and drive to DC for 8 hours listening to the radio. Now that may not be a problem, may not sound like a problem, but when you got used to hearing your own music and now you got to depend on the radio and you're going through, these trees and stuff, or you find a radio station that's jamming, and then as soon as your favorite song comes on, you get out of range or something like that. I had to deal with that all the way to our nation's capital and all the way back. And there was no cell phones. There was no Spotify, folks. This is 1995, right? So I get back and we go to practice the next day, I think, or something. We went somewhere, some type of team function. And Rod Walker says something to the effect of, hey, KD, I'm going to bring your CD player back later. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I caught you slipping. You had your door unlocked and I took it. You're lucky I didn't get rid of it, but I just wanted to teach you a lesson, man. You know what? You never leave your doors unlocked. And man, while I was happy to find out that because I had already, kind of anguished over it, and I knew I was going to have to ask my mom for some money that she didn't have so I could get another a compact disc player, because I used that for my car and I used it to walk around campus and stuff like that. And when he told me that, man, I wanted to kick Rod's ass so bad, but I was also happy that that he had it. What else? I'll leave y'all with this. Again, we didn't have cell phones back in the day. And before I started dating my wife, I met this young lady, and she was dope. She was real cool. She was fly. She was good looking, really smart. And we went out a couple of times, right? Went out on a couple of dates. And I distinctly remember we went out on a date. We went to dinner, and I dropped her off at her dorm. And I ain't gonna lie, I was liking this girl. She was cool. She was dope. I mean, like, she could have been, and I was single at the time. So I was like, she might be the one. Until she wasn't. So, Baylor, you can appreciate this. So after I dropped her off, instead of I dropped her off at her dorm, and instead of me just, I parked my car, instead of me going back to my room, I went to see one of the homies. And, you sitting in the homie's room and y'all talking, shooting the shit, and some time passed. And I may have been in his room maybe about 25 minutes. And then I saw one of my other teammates and went in his room. So I sat there for about another 15 minutes or so. And then I finally make my way to my room. And by the time I get to my room, I have, because at this time there was no, with the dorm, there was no such thing as caller ID, but we had answer machines. And so on the answer machine, I had 8 messages from this young lady who I just saw 35 minutes ago when I dropped her off. 8 messages. I mean, like, she kept calling. Hey, where are you? I was just calling to see how you were doing. Hey, it's me again. What? It was like being stalked, but I mean, not really being stalked, but I was like, yo, and I'll be honest with you guys, nothing ever happened between me and this young lady other than the fact that we held hands. I don't even think we kissed. In fact, I'm pretty sure we didn't kiss, at least not yet. So what's going on here? Why? She had all of the intangibles, but she was crazy. And nothing speaks nostalgia or college like realizing that somebody's crazy and being happy that you dodged that bullet. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday and every Sunday at midnight. If you're on social media, hit us up, 12 Kyle podcast across the board. We're also on TikTok as well. Again, the podcast drops. We're on all streaming platforms. Make sure that you download it and like and subscribe and share it with a friend. We're also on YouTube. Thank you for watching on YouTube. You can hit us up there as well. And we also have a new baby. It's called the Rap Soul Podcast. It is a music podcast that features music, artists, and conversations about rap, soul music from the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. It is the best music podcast that you've never heard. So make sure that you check it out. Again, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.